Okay. All right. So we are.
Just go for it.
Let's just go for it.
All right.
All right. I'm
Okay.
ready when you're ready.
What was I supposed to say? Welcome to our very first episode of Pretty Smart 2. I'm Brandy.
And I'm Laura, and we are here with our podcast. Super excited to bring it to you, to all the estheticians out there and spa owners and people interested in the beauty industry, in this industry, wonderful industry to work in. We're a little nervous. We've been planning this podcast for about 3 years now, and here we are.
Yes, finally here. We have talked about this and planned it out in our heads a million times, and here we are. Okay, so this podcast will be primarily for estheticians, beauty professionals, as well as people that are just wanting to grow their spas.
Yeah, that's right. Brady and I both, when we first started talking about doing this podcast, we were like, we wish we would have had something like this. We had something when we were first getting started. And we talk all the time about how, these young girls coming up and young men coming up in the business and how, to have a mentor is so important. It was so important to me to have mentors and so important to Brandy as well. So, yeah, we're going to dive into that a little bit today.
Yes, no more gatekeeping. We are going to tell all of our secrets, the good, bad, the ugly. We have been through a lot in a very short
Yes.
amount of time.
Yeah. So I say, since a lot of you watching don't know us, we should maybe introduce, how we met, our background story and whatnot. Just imagine a little small town, El Dorado, Arkansas, is where Brandy and I met almost 14 years ago. I was about 10 months pregnant. No
Yeah.
joke. Very, very pregnant. Brandy was working for the chamber and we were volunteering together, putting together a festival. And that's the first time that I ever met Brandy. And I do want to tell you a fun little story. The first time I met Brandy, I thought she has got to be in the beauty industry. She's so put together. She's so well spoken. You could just tell that, she lights up the room when she walks in. And then came her little girl, Bailey. And Bailey was probably 6 or 7, I guess, then. And it was an 80s festival that we were working on. And Bailey came running by and she had this little pack of candy cigarettes and she was pretending to smoke her little cigarette. And I thought, my gosh, her mom's going to be upset. But no, Brandy was like, oh, Bailey, that is so cute. And I thought, I'm going to be friends with her
Oh,
because
for sure.
she's so chill.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know? So, yes. And ever since then, we've been best of friends.
We have. I don't think we have spent very long apart since then. We talk every single day. So, yeah, that was 14 years ago. And you've been in LA now for how long? 4, 5
We've
years?
been here since for 5 years. For
Yeah.
5 years, and we still talk every day. Yeah.
So crazy. Yeah. We're still, it's like we never skipped a beat. And so now I've been
Yeah.
to LA a couple of times and she's flown back here. And so we have kept this connection. And yeah, it's great. But yeah, that's how we met. And like she said, I started out at the Chamber of Commerce. So my world took a crazy turn. Once I met Laura, I realized I finally had somebody that believed in me and would push me to do something that I'd always wanted to do. So I was always the girl in high school that was doing everybody's hair, everybody's makeup. I always had an interest in it. I've struggled with acne my entire teen years and really didn't know how to go about it. So I just threw alcohol in my face and had no idea. And there really wasn't anybody teaching us about this stuff. This was, 90s and skincare wasn't
Mhm.
like it is now. There wasn't YouTube. We couldn't go on, and watch a video on how to take care of our skin. And so all those things were on my mind. And I knew it was such a fun industry to get into. But back in those days, it just wasn't as widely known as it is now to go into cosmetology. That field just wasn't everybody just told you, you've got to go to college. You've got to go do
Yeah.
this. You've got to do that. And so my upbringing just brought me into Chamber of Commerce. I've always been really good with talking to people. I went to community college straight out of high school and did that for a little bit, and then landed myself a job being the president of the Chamber of Commerce in little bitty Prescott, Arkansas. And I did that for about 10 years and really loved it. I put on a cute little festival and just, we did community coffees, and I was just very involved with volunteering and had volunteers and board members that were under me, and we planned all this really cool stuff. And
Yeah.
I just decided there was a monthly chamber newsletter that came from the Arkansas State Chamber. And there was a job opening in El Dorado, and it was for a workforce development director. And so I thought, you know what, if I can do this in this little town, why not do it in a place that's double the size? And I'll at least, try to get the job. I don't know if I'll get it or not. And so I drove to El Dorado. I remember coming here and I just thought this was the cutest. I mean, I still feel this way. I mean, every day when I drive to work in this beautiful downtown, it's just such a cute, quaint town. And so I applied for the job. I landed the job. So me and my husband then moved here with our 2 children, Bailey and Blaine. And Blaine was 18 months old and Bailey was about 7. So she was going into the 2nd grade. Blaine was still in daycare. So it's just a crazy thing. And then Austin, Laura's husband, was working for El Dorado Festivals and Events. And his office at the time, none of this existed yet. They hadn't built anything. There was no infrastructure. And so he was working on all of that in the chamber. And so
Oh,
his
wow.
office was upstairs. And so every day we would see each other in the kitchen getting coffee or whatever. And he was talking about planning this 80s festival. And I was like, man, I've just landed like the coolest job ever. This is so cool. Like I was so excited to be able to plan it and, help with all of it. And I learned pretty quickly that that wasn't really my role. It was like, cool, you can volunteer if you want to, but your workforce development, know your role. And it just very much felt like a man's world. Nothing against the Chamber of Commerce anywhere. They're great. They're wonderful places to have. But just in my experience, pretty quickly realized that I don't really belong here. I really need to be doing something for myself because I like to call the shots.
Yeah.
And so once Laura and I met and she told me that she was opening a spa in our town, she was like, just go to school. What's the big deal?
Yeah.
Like, well, just there's a
Yeah.
school here. Just go to cosmetology school. Because at the time they
Yeah.
didn't even have the esthetician program.
That's right. And I remember us talking about how you had wanted to go to cosmetology school,
Exactly.
but and us talking about how, well, that's not, I don't remember if you said it or if I said it or if it came up in the conversation somehow about how that's kind of a lot of people's second choice in life or like their
Yeah.
second chance. Like if college doesn't work out, I'll go to
Yeah.
beauty school type of
Ex-
thing, beauty school dropout type world. And that has had very much so been kind of the norm. And I'm super, super happy that, that's definitely changing out
well, I'm
there.
so glad.
People,
Yes.
yes, I see little girls all the time that
Mhm.
come in, their moms bring them in to the dermatology office and they're like, will you talk to my daughter? She's interested. What does she need to do? Where does she go to school?
Well,
What does she do? And it's the social media, all that information that's out there. And so people are finding out at a young age, it is a good profession. It is, and it isn't,
amazing.
yeah.
Yeah. I
And
mean,
it's
my
not a
own
man's world. Like,
No, yeah. My only regret
yeah,
is not doing it sooner. I mean, yes. So yeah, Laura and I got to talking and I left the Chamber of Commerce. I left that world behind, period. Like it was crazy.
yeah,
And at 34, I believe I think I turned 34 while I was in school. I went to cosmetology school. I was the second oldest. There was one other girl that was older than me. And yes, it was crazy, but I learned so much and I was just kind of like the mom of the group and I studied really, really hard. And Laura and I flew out to Vegas while I was still in school. And that's where I trained for Novalash. And I became Novalash certified while I was a student in cosmetology school because I knew I needed to get all these things like
yeah,
all of my ducks in a row. So the minute that I graduated, I was ready to go to work. And I was. I mean, it was crazy. I was already booked out. I mean, I think I was booked out for a month when I graduated cosmetology school and
yeah. We
terrified.
worked those books hard. And that's another
Yes.
important thing for these young girls that are going, and boys that are
Yeah.
going into this field, you know, vet where you're working just as hard as they are looking at you. Make sure
Exactly.
that that person is going to work hard for you, is going to get your books filled, is going to do some of your social media for you, is going, of course, you have a lot. Brandy did a lot of it on her own for sure. But I mean, that is super important to make sure that where you're going cares about you because there's so many places out there that kind of don't, unfortunately,
They kind of just
So,
expect
yeah.
you to come in and do your own work, and then they're gonna pay you very little in the beginning, and then you're
Uh-huh.
doing all this work. So, yeah, you wanna be really careful about where you choose to work. So that's a
Yeah.
little bit of my story. Tell us about you, Laura.
Okay.
She's
Well,
really the boss babe.
well, not, I mean, yeah, but we
Yeah,
both
you
are.
are. You are.
So let's see. I actually kind of always wanted to be in the business similar to Brandy, but had that whole thing in the back of my mind, go to college, do all of those things first. And so I did. I went to college, majored in theater. And while I was in the theater program, I was like, I want to do hair and makeup. I want to do hair and makeup. So I would volunteer for a majority of the plays as the hair and makeup artist and would do designs and then just decided I was like, this is what I want to do. This is what I want to do. I got married while I was in school and my husband and I moved to Los Angeles together after he graduated. Actually didn't graduate college, but
Okay.
so we both yeah, I, got what I needed from it. Wanted to work. I knew what I wanted. I wanted to be in this field. I wanted to do makeup. I wanted to do skin. That is what I wanted. So we got out to California and I was, doing theater and which I very much so loved doing and doing acting work and it was a lot of fun. But as I started to get older in the entertainment industry, I realized I have to kind of do something other than acting if we're ever going to move anywhere else in the country other than LA. And if we are going to, if I want to have kids, it's kind of hard to, not that you can do that, but I just did not see that for myself. I saw myself as needing something more. And that something more was definitely getting into the aesthetics field. So actually, because I was married and an adult and not, didn't have, I was older. I was 25, before I was able to get into to go to school. I found a job at a day spa, at a really nice day spa as a front desk person. And thinking in my head, I'm going to go to cosmetology school to learn to do hair and makeup and not really thinking about skin. Well, while I was
Mhm.
working in this spa, this really nice spa, I met estheticians and it was just like a light bulb moment. I knew instantly that's what I want to do. That right there, skin, it's just so interesting to me. So actually ended up talking with one of the estheticians at the spa, and she pointed me in the direction of Santa Monica Community College. And at the time, back in, what was it, 2002, 2001, something like that, 2003, the cost, my entire program was like $500, and that's including my
Oh my
supplies. Now, I'm sure it's a little
wow.
bit more now, but
Yeah.
because I was a California resident, I'd lived here for 3 years, I could get into school and go to school for not very much, like, they waived a lot of tuition fees. So, I
Yeah.
was very lucky and went to Santa Monica College, which I highly recommend. Most of my teachers were also teaching at I'm not gonna mention the name of the school, but a much more expensive school
Yeah.
right across town that, I was getting the same education as these kids that were
Mhm.
paying $30,000 were getting. So I did that and haven't looked back since. Yeah, I've just kind of hit the ground running and worked at several like salon spas, worked at a medical spa, became a manager of a medical spa, then moved down to down and there was not a spa in that little town. We didn't have a spa in El Dorado. Look up El Dorado, Arkansas. It is the cutest place. There's so
It
much
is.
to do there. It's a very unique place, but there wasn't a spa. There was there's very cute hair salons and places like that, but there just wasn't a place for people to go and get, nice luxurious facial treatments. There were some massage places, but not the full on spa experience. So I found a location and I found the location while I was still pregnant with my daughter and thought, if it's still there in a few months, I want to get that place. And it was. So when Olivia was just about 7 months along, 7 months into this world, 7 months old,
Yeah. Yeah.
we signed our lease on the building and started building it out. And by the time she was 9 months old, I was operating spa in Maine and loved it for 9 years, had the spa. We decided to move back to California just for professional reasons for my husband and just, kind of wanted to get our kids back out here. And so we sold the spa and actually sold the spa March 2nd of 2020.
Yeah.
And right before the pandemic, which luckily Arkansas only closed for a small amount of time, like a month or
Yeah,
so.
it wasn't terrible.
Yeah, here in California, we were closed for
Yeah, y'all were
a
much
long
longer.
time. A long time. So, but came back and worked for a really amazing dermatologist here, Dr. Obagi. I'm just going to say it. I don't know. I
Just
guess
say
it's
it.
okay to
He
say.
won't
I need
care.
to ask him if it's for. No, he won't care. I work for Dr. Zane Obagi in Beverly Hills at his Beverly Hills location and also a little bit in Laguna Beach and a little bit in Newport Beach. So he has 4 locations. So I'm super blessed. I feel like I've moved up, 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 up in this industry. And Brandy started with me, but she pulls me up just as much as I ever pulled her up.
Uh,
Because, as we get kind of, I guess, burnt out, I guess, a little bit, we encourage each other. And I highly recommend that. Find people that will encourage you and lift
For
you up.
sure. Don't find people that will be the negative campaigners with you. Don't find that. Find people that will say, "Yeah, that's a hard time you're going, but here's what you've got going for you," and accentuate the positives. And we've always been good at that.
Yes.
So, and yes, and the good Lord knew exactly what he was doing because when Laura moved, of course, I wanted to buy the spa. Of course, I was first in line and said, "Yes, I want this. This is what I want. I mean, I love this place. I give it just as much as she does in my mind at that time." But anyway, it just wasn't right for me at the time. I was going through a divorce and I just wasn't able to take that on. It was meant to be because COVID happened just shortly after that, and I would have never been able to recover from that probably just because of the financial mess that I was in myself personally. So with that, I went ahead and just kept working for the new owner and she's great and she was actually one of my clients. I love her dearly. She is an amazing person. We became very close. Worked for her for 2 more years in 2022, December 1st of 2022. I opened my own spa. So just and also in downtown El Dorado as well. And so we did a lot of different things though than the spa in Maine offered. And so it worked for the time being. And then I am actually about to open my second location in a week. So and it's gonna be in Little Rock, which is the state capital here in Arkansas. So really excited, and none of that would have been possible without Laura. I mean, I took a lot of her steal ideas. It's not really stealing. You're just taking what
Yeah.
works and why reinvent the wheel? There's no reason for that. Take what does work and look at, other places maybe where you're working right now and you go home and you think, "Gosh, I would do this so different." Well, start writing all that down, and that's basically what I did for those 2 years when I figured out I couldn't buy it. I had to get myself in a place where I could buy something or do something on my own. I just got a little notebook, and every single day I would say, "Man, I'm frustrated about this, so I'm gonna write this down, and whenever I have my own place, I'm gonna try not to do this, or
Mhm.
how can I do this better?" And so that's what I would encourage.
Definitely. And, even before you start working for someone, let's say that you're in a situation like I was that where I couldn't go to school right away, and I was a little bit older. What I started doing was vision boarding. I would cut out little articles from magazines and I made myself a little scrapbook about, eventually one day, this
Yes,
is what I'll be doing. And, and it grew and grew and grew. And, you can do things like that. You can read lots of books and do lots of research that way. But yes, definitely learn whether it's the things you don't want to do or it's the things that you want to steal and take, those
exactly.
ideas
Yeah,
that all will help you in the future for sure. So,
for
yeah.
sure.
Every week, we're going to wrap up with a pretty smart tip of the week. This week, it's my tip of the week, and I would like to say start. Doesn't matter where you are. If you're naming your business, if you are getting ready to start that business but you can't get a loan just yet, go ahead and write your spa menu. Research, read, start school, start the classes. Progress is messy. It's not easy. Just get started. That's it. That's my tip of the week.
That's right. Just get started.
Just get started. Yeah. Just do
Just get
it.
started.
Yeah. So This has been our first episode. Coming in the future episodes, we will get into a little bit more talking about how you go about writing protocols for your employees, how you go about writing your service menus, what are the better pieces of equipment to purchase, what are the pieces of equipment you should avoid, how to make a budget, a business plan, how, and even if you already have your business, how to elevate it to that next level of medical spa, which Brandy and I both did.
Yes.
And then even going, above and beyond that, and we have many things to talk about. We look forward to seeing you guys in our coming episodes. And, we're not just pretty, we're pretty
We're
smart.
pretty smart too. We may have to work on that. Get together on that.